When I say elves, then Wood Elf is probably one of the first that comes to your mind. Here's the basics. Wood Elves are also known as copper elves due to their coppery skin color. Their eyes are green, brown or hazel, and most commonly with black, brown or copper red hair. They're of average elven height, with the males being slightly taller and prefer to wear leather armor which is made to blend in with nature. Wood elves are often stronger than other elves and spend less time on learning magics than, for example, sun and moon elves, who value education more. They are often seen as calm and level-headed, not prone to anger or inciting strong emotions. They do, however, harbor a dislike for cities and urbanization, seeing it as somewhat of an affront to nature. Convinced that these materialistic things would eventually be overcome by nature anyway. This attitude was considered by many to be quite arrogant and self-righteous, not really helping their relationships with other races. Compared to other elves, this made Wood Elves a lot less charismatic, despite their actual compassion and humility. Wood Elven relationships are often polyamorous, taking or leaving lovers freely. Basic feelings such as jealousy or possessiveness does become a topic for teasing. To most of the other elven races though, this behavior prompted the opinion that a relationship with a Wood Elf was doomed from the start. For Wood Elves, compassion is a much greater virtue than strength, and as a result they are much less concerned with expanding their territories than they are with maintaining good relationships with their neighbors. They aren't nomadic, unlike the wild elves. Instead, they live in carefully hidden nature villages, led by a village council. This village council is often advised by local druids. It wasn't uncommon for these druids to advise several villages either, acting as the webbing that united the different villages. Concerning magic, Wood Elves had little interest in learning the arcane arts, comparing it to the castle walls, a means to control nature. This being a direct affront to the concept of living in harmony with nature. Thus, Wood Elven adventurers are more likely to choose paths such as fighters, rangers, or even rogues, using their mastery of camouflage to fully utilize these professions. When compared to other elves, very few Wood Elves would become spellslingers or blade singers, though bards were far from unknown. The most common exception to the use of arcane magic, however, was in the form of arcane archers. Devout religious Wood Elves would usually become druids, with very few becoming a cleric. Many Wood Elven adventurers would also choose to become harpers. Feeling like they were in harmony with nature and their surroundings, this also reflected in the Wood Elves' art, leisure, and homes. Doing their best to alter as little as they could, they often had their homes in the limbs of trees or in natural outcroppings. Little to no furniture was found either, mostly using what nature gave them and not bothering with much else. In fact, Wood Elven villages resembled natural terrain so much that humans were known to wander in and out without even realizing they had done so. It speaks for itself then that most Wood Elves don't really bother with skills such as blacksmithing. Wood Elven carpentry and leather tanning, however, knew almost no equal. Even though Wood Elves don't want to impact their surroundings too much, they are avid hunters. Many hours are spent on the hunt, both for food as for leisure. They did not, however, own pets, but instead formed bonds with local wildlife, similarly to rangers. Wood Elves weren't against having interactions with other races, as a lot of the other elven sub-races do. In fact, they welcomed it. They believed that their fates were tied to those of the other races. Ironically enough, despite this welcoming nature, their reclusiveness makes it so they rarely really had contact with the other races. And of all the other races, they were most familiar with the humans and the dwarves that lived in the vicinity. As rare as these encounters were, when they did happen, most of the time they were friendly. Like the Moon Elves, the Wood Elves considered themselves allies and teachers of the other races, as opposed to rivals. If you like this video covering the basics of Wood Elves, make sure to sub and check out my other videos for more lore basics.